There are two pending allegations I've heard against you, and I just want to give you the opportunity to explain them. One was some sort of an ethics violation, or that you paid a fine to. Could you just explain what that is for the record?
I've included a copy of a 3-page letter response that I sent to the State Commission on Ethics when I held the position of consultant management engineer for the Department of Transportation in District 4 in Fort Lauderdale. There was an employee who had filed various complaints with Commission on Ethics, the Board of Professional Engineers, alleging impropriety on my part, that I had given business to private consulting firms because my husband, who at the time had a business doing house inspections. You're going to buy a home, someone would inspect. All of those allegations were refuted. What I did do and was reprimanded for by the agency was on a couple occasions, two I believe, I brought in a copy of the report to give to a person who he had done inspection for, 8 pieces of legal paper, and foolishly but made a photocopy of 8 pieces of legal paper. And when the individual came to see me to pick up the report, I was in meetings, as I typically am here, and asked my assistant if she would take the report either across the hall or down 1 floor. And the attorney with the Commission on Ethics felt that that was a violation of state resources and a misuse of my position. And after so many years of going through all of these claims, I agreed to, it wasn't worth wasting taxpayer money anymore, it wasn't worth any more of my time, and I agreed to the reprimand and a $500 fine to put it to rest. And the employee who made the allegations was later terminated by the agency for cause, sued the agency, and the state prevailed in that action.
Okay. 2 more questions. And the same opportunity I want to give to you again is there have been people who have made some allegations against you regarding the Flagler Street project. And my understanding is your husband may have some peripheral involvement. I just want to give you the opportunity just to say whatever it is on the record you have to say about that.
Sure. My husband is a licensed general contractor. He's a graduate of FIU's Building Construction Management program. He has worked for general contractors. Most recently, he has worked for engineering firms, Carr Smith, Corradino, Jim Harris, performing as a senior building inspector or senior bridge inspector on Department of Transportation projects. So he is employed by the company Corradino that was hired years prior to my coming to the city to design, by the DDA, hired to design the Flagler Street Marketplace project.
So years before September of 2003, your husband was employed to do work for the DDA?
No. My husband has never done any work inside the city on any city project. He has never done any work for any city project. He's done work for the Florida Department of Transportation in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. Now
explain yourself one more time then. Maybe I'm not understanding. You're saying years before your employment with the city, your husband was in the employ of a company that did some design work? I'm not sure when exactly he started with Corradino, but his position at that firm has never had any involvement with any business at the city. It's a relatively low-level line staff position. The contract with Corradino for design was procured by the DDA before I joined the city. What happened subsequent to that was the city put out a solicitation for CEO or construction inspection services, similar to an item you voted on earlier today. And when the letters of interest were received, Corradino was one of the submitters. As soon as I saw that they were a submitter, I recused myself from any participation, and other staff served as the selection committee, and they were one of the firms that were selected in the pool of 10 or 12 or 15 or however many firms based on their experience providing construction inspection services. And they were subsequently assigned the Flagler Street project because they were the engineers of record.
there was a feeling that they would provide continuity by having the same team and the same company that designed the project oversee the inspection services.
All right, last question. In any way, shape, or form, did HDR in any way shape, create, author, or amend the RFP submitted by CIP?
No, they did not. And Diane Johnson, I believe, would make the same statement for you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I don't have a lot to ask Mary. Just first of all, I wanted to thank you and acknowledge you sending the email. And I know all my colleagues have gotten it, but I'm sure you got my email back saying thanks for the clarification.
Yes, I did, Commissioner.
Because a lot of times you read stuff in the newspaper, and you always have to know that there's another side of the story. And it was great to know that you were able to fire back immediately your side of the story. As far as I'm concerned, Mary Conway, anything that we've needed to get done in District 5, you've always been amenable, always have been a very straightforward. Even if you can't do it, you're going to say, Commissioner, that can't happen. And I really appreciate and value that. So I think it's important to say that to you before I ask you any other questions. The one thing that I had a question on when I read the email was you made a statement. I've had a concern with the HDR contract from the time that I got elected, just on key things that I felt that they needed to do and to see happening, and just really trying to understand what their role was. And you were able to make Neil available to solve many of those problems, and he was. But you made a comment about in your statement to us about HDR's the renewal of their contracts or their agreement the last time, and that you had reached out to, I don't know if it was this administration, saying that you had concerns. Can you just speak on that issue real fast so that I have clarity that you, and I would like to know why you had,
in the note that I had sent?
Yeah.
The only concerns that I had is that as the Vice Chairman mentioned earlier, the vote, this has been the things that we've had to do, piggybacking on contracts, using program management services that made employees feel that maybe we were trying to get rid of city employees. There have been a lot of controversial issues and discussions associated with a lot of the things that we've had to do to go from $15 million worth of projects to over 100. And when the first one-year option came up last year, my recollection is it was a 3-2 vote. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of discussion, and it could very possibly not have moved forward.
Right.
And I had a conversation with the city manager in the beginning of the year to ask him whether he wanted to put out a new solicitation to let industry compete again, because there was that discussion, and the decision at the time was, no, let's proceed.
Right.
Now the Commission, if it's their desire, the administration will put out a solicitation and let industry compete again, and that's fine and that's appropriate.
Okay.
But my concern, my only concern is that since we did not put out a solicitation in January, that's typically a 4 to 6 month process from the time the advertisement goes out until this body approves it and it gets fully executed and a purchase order is issued, that if we were not able to have their services available, especially having lost employees recently, right on the cusp of selling $50 and $80 million worth of additional Homeland Defense and street bonds, that the city would not be able to honor its commitment and deliver the projects.
Okay. I thought it was important because that was, to me, when I got the email, it was almost as if you threw up a red flag to address the issue before we got deeper into the situation, and that was kind of the response to the reaction you got back. So I didn't know if it was you stating that because you did have concerns yourself.
Of course, because of the discussion last year about whether the Commission wanted to, whether the administration wanted to go through another competitive solicitation and bring new firms and let industry compete again.
Okay. And then this is my last comment, and I turn over to my colleague here. And this is more of a personal question, more so than anything else, not really about what is going on with what happened with the overall story and whether or not some things are true, what things are not true, and all of that. More so than anything, I think that we all as commissioners have to deal with, the constant just constantly being put on the spot by the media. I mean, that just goes with who we are, and as leaders, and you're a leader in your department, you have to deal with the same thing.